Hey, we are excited to have you guys back today. Today we're talking about a little bit about reopening. What happens when you make a decision, and I'm sure that was a difficult decision, when and how to reopen. How do you do that well? We're going to look at that from an HR perspective today, and there's a lot of legal ramifications of that. And just as an FYI, we are not attorneys, but we're looking at things from an HR standpoint. So we hope we can help you with some of the things that you might start to think about. And to that end, we have brought Karen Moss back. Karen Moss is on our staff and has been for lots of years, and she is an HR expert, and she has been in HR for over 30 years. And so I'm going to pass it off to her. And Karen, now that one of our clients or the people that are looking or listening have figured out that they are going back in, what are some of the things that you or as a HR consultant would offer to them as things that they need to start thinking about?
Sure. Thanks for having me back again. So, the new normal is very, very different from what you were used to before. There's so much to think about. And so, let me start first with safety, right? Because safety is kind of first and foremost. Thinking about safety for your employees and thinking about safety for customers, visitors. And it's really important to follow guidelines that have been issued by the CDC and your state. The CDC's done a great job. They have very specific guidelines for certain businesses and industries, like if you're a school, if you're a hairdresser, whatever. So they've got some great materials on their website. But sticking with safety, so what about, for example, the protective equipment? Are you going to require that your employees wear masks? Are you going to provide them? Are they going to provide them? What type of screening will you offer? Now the EEOC has said to companies that you can do testing. So not only do you want to take someone's temperature, do you want them to have a test to see if they have COVID-19? And if so, how are you going to do that? Are you going to have it on premises? Are you going to do it offsite? What about the changes in your office environment? If you're going to have people coming back into the office, you've got to think about social distancing. So maybe you're one of these employers where people have been sitting out in the open very close to one another. What is that going to look like? Are you going to have partitions? Are you going to have plexiglass like they've done in the grocery stores? What are you going to do about common areas like the break room or the kitchen or even bathrooms? And then what about meetings? If you've got a meeting that's got more than 10 people, you really can't do that safely unless everyone's social distancing the 6 feet. So there's so many things to take into account about coming back into an office environment, or if you don't have an office environment. And then what about the cleaning? There are very specific rules out there about how you're going to clean or sanitize. Are you going to do that every day? What is that going to look like? So a big part of this is your communication strategy. What are you going to tell your employees, visitors, customers before you do any of these things? The communication is going to be very important because they all need to know what to expect when they return. And then your policies. You're going to either have to create or revise so many of your existing policies. Things like telework. So let's say that you've decided that many of your employees can work remotely. Now that you're thinking about reopening and bringing people back into a physical location, what does that look like? Who's going to come back? When are they coming back? Are you going to stagger hours? Maybe you're going to have some people work on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and another group of people work Tuesday, Thursday. You might stagger their hours. You really have to think about all of those things when people are returning. And then what about people who are over 65 or have underlying medical conditions? In the past, as HR people, we didn't look at things that way, but now, those are people who are more vulnerable. And so as employers, we need to think about how we're going to handle that. Are we going to make special accommodations?
And Karen, isn't in the state of Georgia, as of right now, as we're filming this, I believe those people that are over 65 and with underlying medical conditions are on a stay-at-home order.
That is
So
correct until June the 12th.
yeah,
That's
so although you could bring your other employees back, you can't bring these employees back. So
correct.
again, those things that we told you never to do, like discriminate based on age, on whether or not people could come into an office or things like that, because of the new stay-at-home orders, we're having to look at that, and we have to heed that because that is a state law.
That's correct. That's correct. So there's so many things to take into account. And then, what about if you're in a situation where you had to furlough employees? How do you determine who's going to come back? What criteria are you going to use? Just like you did when you made the decision to furlough employees. What about their pay? What about their benefits? How is all of that going to work? And then what happens if someone comes back to work and they say they're sick, or someone at home is sick, or even if someone actually ends up testing positive? How are you going to handle that? So you're going to have to really be up on some of the new legislation, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the CARES Act. You need to know about the sick leave benefits. You need to know about extended family leave. All of those issues are going to come back as people return to work. And I would say the one thing perhaps that many employers talked about in the past, but really didn't give it much thought, is a business continuity plan. And I think now, with everything that businesses have gone through, that's something that is critically important, thinking about moving forward. So the takeaway is there's so many little things that have to be taken care of. There's so much preparation that really needs to go into preparing for employees to return to work. And we can be your partner and really help you with that, because as HR professionals, we're used to dealing with the people side of the business. And there's so many new things that we're learning too, but we've got the background and the expertise to help you walk through this difficult time and really come up with a strategy and a checklist and really review what needs to happen when you're thinking about doing this.
Yeah, it is complicated for sure. Karen and I have spent just a ton of time trying to figure this out, because there are things that, for instance, as of today, unless Karen, you tell me otherwise, there still is a question on if an employee comes back to work because you've called them back to work and they're not in one of those over 65 or have underlying medical conditions and they get coronavirus, is the business going to be protected from litigiousness because of that? That, to my knowledge, has not been determined yet, or how they get protected. So there are so many things that you have to make decisions on. And again, we're learning some of this guidance as we go, because this has come up so quickly. So I think there's just a lot of things that are known and we can help you with now, and that we'll work through with you, or we can help your HR person to work through. So anyway, we are here for you with that. We know that these are difficult times. On this email, we're also giving you some information where you can find some of this documentation from, say, the CDC and some other things, so you can look these up for yourself. We're providing all those things for you so that you can do some of your own research. But if you do come into a place where you find you need some extra counsel or some extra help, we're here for you. Again, none of these are construed as legal policies. And so again, please consult your attorney. But thanks again for trusting us to help you guys. And if there's anything we can do, please let us know. Thanks again, Karen. Have a great day.
My pleasure.